Hi everyone, welcome to another video. Hope you're all doing well. So Warhammer Fest has been and gone, and now that I've had a few days to think about it, I thought I'd just do a little video with my thoughts on the event and also Warhammer 40,000 10th edition, because I was lucky enough to get a demo game of that while I was at Warhammer Fest. So there's a few things that I think they could have done better with the event, but I'll just start off by saying I had an absolutely brilliant time at Warhammer Fest. I was there all weekend. I had the 3-day pass and I really did have a good time. It's just that now that I've come home and I've thought about it, there's a few things that I think they could have improved on, particularly with the space and the layout and stuff like that. So let's start with the venue. So the GMX, or Manchester Central as it's properly known, it's actually a great venue. There's nothing wrong with it. There's tons of space. There's all sorts of different side areas and annexes. There's a giant food court. There's an auditorium. So for an event like Warhammer Fest, it's actually ideal. It's really good. But the problem was they didn't really utilise the space as well as they could have done. So once you got in there, there was like a bit of a themed entrance, and you could either go left or right. Everyone was going to the left, and as soon as you got through those doors, that's where the cabinets were for Golden Demon. Now, as you can imagine, and if you've been to a games day or anything like that before, you know what it's like. Everybody's crowding around the cabinets. They all want to see the amazing miniatures that are on display, that people are entering into Golden Demon, and it was a bit of a scrum just through the door. And the problem with that is just to the right of the Golden Demon cabinets was a massive open space where you could just sort of chill out, get a breather. It really was a big space, and they could have used some of that for the Golden Demon cabinets just to spread it out a little bit and stop the scrum around the cabinets. And also there was a bit of a queue for Golden Demon as well. Even though the staff were saying you don't need to queue unless you're entering something, you can just look at what you want. We're British, we see a queue and we get in it, so that caused a few problems. Also, just beyond the Golden Demon cabinets was the shop area. Now, that wouldn't be so much of a problem if it weren't for the fact that just across from the shop area were the display cases with all the new miniatures in, such as the Leviathan box set contents, the new Seraphon, and they were just too close to each other and created a bottleneck for anyone walking through that area trying to get to the tournament area at the back. And not only that, on the other side of the display cases were the demo tables for 10th edition, which we'll come to a little bit later on because there were nowhere near enough of those. So those three things crammed into one area just created a bit of a bottleneck, and it was something that they could have avoided had they used the space a little bit better. In terms of everything else around the venue, it was spaced out pretty well. There was third-party games, Tacticus and various other things. There was paint your own pin badges. There was the Titans, with the full-scale battle. That was absolutely brilliant. There was Hang Out and Paint, so that was free. You could sit down, paint a miniature and take it away. There was also the Hobby Challenge, which shared the same area. That was on the opposite side of the giant open space to where the Golden Demon cabinets were. And there was the tournament area right at the back, which was ideally placed, really. It was out of the way of everybody, so you didn't get people wandering through the tournament area, but you could go down and look at all the awesome armies being played out in the tournaments if you wanted to. And then outside of the main hall, we had the cosplay area, we had food and drink areas, and there was the auditorium as well. Space issues aside, in terms of food and drink and snacks, no issues whatsoever. There were plenty of places in the main hall and outside it to get food, drink, sandwiches. There was a giant food area with chairs where you could sit down. That was really big with tons of room. And there was all sorts you could buy, hot dogs, pizzas, and a bit of a sleeper hit there as well. Soul Bowl, I believe it was called. They were doing a ground beef with vegetables and rice, and I think there was a chicken option and a tofu option, but the ground beef seemed to be a bit of a hit. So everybody with those bowls, so we went and got one. And lo and behold, they were really nice. So that was a nice surprise. So food and drink wise, no issues whatsoever. There were plenty of toilets, and accessibility wise, it was really good. I'm reliably informed that the disabled access was good as well. So all in all, as a venue, I think the Manchester Central is a big thumbs up. They just need to utilise the space a little bit better. So in terms of things to see and do at Warhammer Fest, this is where I would have a little bit of negative feedback, unfortunately. So on the face of it, it did look like there was a lot to do, but unless money was no object and you were willing to buy all the extra tickets for the various things like hobby classes, the scrap challenge, stuff like that, then over the course of a 3-day weekend, if you had a weekend pass, you might run out of things to do, especially if you're not a tournament player and you're not going to be spending one of those days playing in one of the tournaments. So if you're not into like third-party app games, they were all there. But if you're not interested in anything like that, then that's another thing you're not going to be experiencing. So that's a bit of a shame that there weren't as many things to do as it looked like there would be on the face of it. So for example, where was Forge World? Where was the design studio? Where was Black Library and the authors? I know Black Library have their own open days, and Forge World sometimes have an open day, but in past Warhammer World events and games days, there's been a desk where you could go and speak to the design studio, you could speak to Forge World, you could speak to the Black Library authors and get your books signed. And with the amount of space that they had, like that big open space I mentioned at the beginning, or all those side annex areas, they could have easily fitted a desk in there with the design studio on, or the Black Library guys. For example, the cosplayers, who I've got to say, by the way, were all amazing, well done to them. They had a big, massive, long desk area in one of the annex areas, which was superb. You could go and look at all the props. Everyone was super friendly, and big shout out to all those cosplayers. They were brilliant. But there were spaces like that that were unused. For example, one area just had some seats in it, which could have quite easily accommodated the Black Library authors. Right next to a coffee stand, there was an artisan coffee stand there in the back of a VW minibus. They were really nice as well. The Black Library guys could have been there, so there was things that were missing that they should have had, really. 40k 10th edition, that's the biggest complaint that I heard everybody mumbling about, or grumbling about, I should say. They had 5 demo tables for 10th edition Warhammer 40,000. Now this is the star of the show, the main game of Warhammer Fest. 5 demo tables with 4 players on each side, and at one point the queue was 3.5 hours long. Now you've got to be super dedicated to wait that long, and I know some people who did queue for that long and still came out with a positive experience, so that does say a lot for the game itself. But there was no way I was queuing for that long. Now luckily we went on Sunday morning at 7:30. Doors opened at 8, and we literally ran to the Warhammer 40,000 queue and got in it for a demo game, and we were playing within 25 minutes, thankfully. Now I will say, shout out to James who did our demo game. He was brilliant. His enthusiasm was infectious, and we had great fun playing the game. I'll just break out of the things to do feedback just to talk about 10th edition for a second. So as I said, it was 4 players per side, and you do 1 full turn. The Space Marines had 2 Blisters Dreadnoughts, a 5-man Infernus squad with the Pyreblasters, and a 10-man Infernus squad, and the Tyranid side had 2 Screamer Killers and 2 squads of 20 Termagants. So we were on the Tyranid side, and each player just picks one thing. So for example, I had one of the Screamer Killers. So we moved the Screamer Killer and 20 Gaunts onto the objective, so we got plenty of that new objective control stat on the objective. And the Infernus squad, the 10-man squad, fired back on Overwatch, normally hitting on a 6. No, the Pyreblasters are D6 auto hits, so once this guy had rolled 10 dice to find out how many hits he rolled 33 dice to wound these Termagants and ended up melting 16 of them immediately, which, as the Space Marine players, they thought it was hilarious, and us as the Tyranid players thought it was hilarious as well. And not only that, the Pyreblaster has a special weapon where you can target an infantry unit hit by that weapon, and they've got to take an immediate battle shock test. So you can imagine you would do if 3/4 of your comrades have just been barbecued, then you would take a battle shock test. So that was good fun, and then we fired back in our turn with the Screamer Killer with the Bioplasma attack. That killed a couple of Marines. They had to take an immediate battle shock test for that. And then in the Marines' turn, they charged the Screamer Killer. That was hilarious when they went piling in. They did their attack, and then the Screamer Killer fought back with its claws. 10 attacks, weapon skill 3+, strength 10, AP -2, doing D3 damage. We ended up chopping some Marines up, and the whole experience was really good fun. Yes, it's fast paced, and you're probably going to be removing models off the table at an alarming rate of knots as usual, but it really was good fun. And having everything on the cards in front of you on the table, I really did like that, and I think that's one of the positives. Everything's simple and laid out. You can just glance down. Everything's there. Really positive experience with that demo game of 40k. And shout out to the staff who were doing the demo games. Every single one of them from 8 AM Saturday to 5:30 PM, 6 PM Monday was still going strong. Bags of enthusiasm. So, fair play to them. They just did not have enough tables. And I can't emphasize that enough. A lot of people were annoyed that they didn't get to play the game, and I think they really should have done a lot more to have more tables. And if next year AOS is going to be the star of the show and they're doing it again at the GMX, or Manchester Central I should say, they need more tables, absolutely. Going back to things to do at the event itself, so if you're not into third-party games like app games, mobile games, then again, that's something you're not going to be interested in. There was the Paint Your Pin badge, which was good fun, and that sits you down for an hour to do something and relax. Hang out and paint is great, that was free, but again, they didn't have enough seats for that, and that was really long queues as well. And as I said, cosplayers were amazing. Seeing those guys walking around, those guys and girls did a really good job. It was funny seeing Louise Sugden, dressed as a battle sister, she borrowed someone's costume, and that was a bit of a double take thing when she went walking past. That was good fun. The Titan guys were there as well with their big 40k scale Titans. Seeing their big game was impressive. They were all super friendly. You could go and chat to them and look at the Titans. And it was funny walking around the event in various different places and you just hear somebody shout, "Engine kill!" when one of the Titans went up. So that was really good fun. Shout out to those guys, they were superb. So the other thing I would say was a bit of an issue was the reveals. So unless you could get into the auditorium to see the reveals that you wanted, you were limited to watching them on a screen. Now, there weren't enough screens around the event, and a lot of them were by the tournament tables, which is great for the tournament players, obviously, but you do not want a lot of people crowding around a TV screen near the tournament area, especially when your army's on the tabletop. Again, it goes back to that big open space at the beginning. There was plenty of space there for additional screens and seats as well, because there were no chairs in this open area, but they could have put a load of seats there, some additional screens to watch the reveals. So again, something they could work on going forward in the future. It's like I said, it's not a massive negative, but it's just something that they could have done a little bit better. So on the face of it, it did look like there was a lot to do, but having gone through the experience, I started running out of things to do on the Sunday, I would say. And the only reason that I still had an amazing time is the people. Everyone at Warhammer Fest was utterly amazing. Honestly, I can't stress that enough. Hashtag Warhammer community or Warhammer fan, whatever you want to call it. Everyone was superb. So I met people that I've only interacted with on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, fellow YouTubers, people I've only spoke to online, and every single one of them was absolutely amazing. They are what made the event special. And big shout out to everyone who was there, because you were all superb, hilarious at times as well. You know, it really was good fun. And just fair play to everyone who was there, because my experience overall with the community was extremely positive. Really did enjoy it, and I think as an event they could call it a success, but there was definitely some things to work on. I will just say one thing about the Games Workshop staff. Across the event, they were all brilliant. You know, as I said, with the demo guys, every single one of them from 8 AM Saturday till 6 PM Monday, bags of enthusiasm, smiles on the faces. I think from speaking to a couple of them, they were doing 15-hour days, which is crazy. So fair play to all of them, they did a superb job. But anyway, I'll stop it there because I've waffled on for long enough. I'll do a separate video about all the reveals. But did you go to Warhammer Fest? If you did, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you thought about Warhammer Fest. Did you travel far? Were you local? Luckily for me, it was 20 minutes, so I was quite local. And also, what did you think of all the reveals from Warhammer Fest, and what have you heard about the event if you didn't go? Let me know in the comments. And also, one last thing to say is, while I was at Warhammer Fest, this channel went over 1,000 subscribers, which is just insane. I haven't quite got my head around that yet. But I'm going to be doing a giveaway on the channel. I'm going to give away one of the event exclusive miniatures. Whoever wins can pick which one they want. I'll ship it anywhere in the world. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and look out for that giveaway in an up and coming video. I'll leave it there. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't enjoy it, as usual, just leave me a comment, let me know why, and that'll help me make better videos going forward. And all that's left to say is thank you very much for watching, and if you've made it this far, well done, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.